Next, we have up a young man that I met a couple months ago. No, year ago? About a year ago. Mr. Daniel Blackman. Daniel Blackman is very nice. He's very sweet. He has a lot of things going on. He's very involved in politics and the community. He is managing partner of Social Karma. He ran for Senate in Forsyth County. And if you have any idea about the history of Georgia and what has happened in Forsyth County, he should be commended for even being brave enough to run for Senate in that county. And I'm going to let Daniel speak a little bit more about himself. But this is Daniel Blackman.
Okay, so I drove an hour to be here, so I need y'all to be a little bit more excited than that. So let's clap for everybody that's out here. And then I'm not going to be long, but give yourselves a round of applause because there's an African proverb that says if you want to run fast, run alone, but if you want to run far, run with others. So this is a journey. This is not just about showing up on 420. This is about being arm in arm with everybody here because let's just be honest, this is going to be a process. And the first question I want to ask before I even open up and give comments is how many people by show of hands are registered to vote? Don't lie. Okay, so so the first thing that we need to do, if this issue means anything to you, you've got to be registered to vote. Being registered to vote gives you a voice and holds people accountable. I know Senator Ford and Senator Thompson, I know we've had people that have spoke about the policy side, but I want to take about 3 minutes just to talk about how it's impacting our community. I do mass incarceration work around the United States of America, and in 1971, when the New York drug laws were passed, that was a line in the sand that directly was a war on poverty and not a war on drugs. We in the state of Georgia have 1.8 million people that unfortunately are living at or below the poverty level. And when you look at what marijuana and drug offenses has done to our communities, it's literally destroyed our community. So I want to offer up some solutions. Number one, for our law enforcement men and women that are here, I think it's important, especially if they're listening or if they will be listening, decriminalizing marijuana has an extreme benefit to our law enforcement, and that is the ability for them to pay attention to crimes that really matter. Because as far as I'm concerned, on a low-level drug offense where people are being incarcerated for possession and people that can't afford the treatment or can't afford their bail, I think we need to change the paradigm and where that's concerned. But when you look at mass incarceration, I don't know if you guys can hear me, so I'm going to just lift my voice a little bit. If you look at mass incarceration, from what it has done in the state of Georgia, 88% of our prison population comes from, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. A large portion of our prison population in Georgia comes from the cluster of zip codes you're in right now. And if that doesn't bother you, then it should be a very clear message on why we need to make sure this issue is important within our communities. So I ask you and I challenge you not just to be accountable to those who are around you, but there's so many children whose lives are being lost over the possession of marijuana. There's so many communities that can be so much further if we focus on real issues like a real epidemic, which is the heroin crisis. The heroin crisis is a crisis that is in dire need of attention, of resources, the opioid epidemic. Right where we're standing today, communities like English Avenue and Vine City have been destroyed because of the heroin epidemic and the drug crisis that really exists. And while we're not downplaying, any harms that drug use or drug abuse has, the main thing we want to focus on today is to make sure people know that criminalizing marijuana and criminalizing these communities that are really trying to get up out of the positions that they're in. I remember when Bankhead, which is now Donald Lee Hallowell, had several homes and communities that had folks that quite frankly couldn't get jobs because they had marijuana in their systems. How can we expect communities to grow and to be rebuilt and to be reestablished if we're criminalizing people for anything that they're doing on every single base, at every line, when the people that are elected in office don't even get tested or treated the same way and don't get held under the same scrutiny that regular folks like you and I get held under every day? So I'm going to challenge everybody that's here today. And my challenge to you is to become an ambassador and an advocate. Don't just show up here. We got enough people showing up. If Donald Trump showed us anything in this country, it's that we have the ability to organize. We have the ability to come together. If it's just about 420, if it's just about this day, nothing is going to change. Absolutely nothing will change. It's not just about voting for a mayor. It's not just about voting for a governor or a president. Everybody got excited when President Obama ran for office and when he won, but then we failed to put the right judges in courts that are the ones sentencing our boys and girls that are getting caught up in this vicious cycle of jail and recidivism. Last year, the private prison system made $80 billion in profit. $80 billion in profit is what our private prisons had made. And most of those profits are made off of folks that, quite frankly, don't have a problem. They're folks that got caught with some marijuana that, you know, at the very least, let there be a fine that is associated with them. But overcrowding our jails and penalizing people for low-level drug offenses and not being willing to have the conversation is doing much more harm than good in our community. And I'll end with this. I challenge you all to be advocates. What I want every single person to do is two things. Number one, I want you to register to vote. That's the first thing I want you to do. Whether you can hear me or not, somebody's recording it, so go back and get it. I want you to register to vote, and I want you to register somebody else to vote. But number two, I want you to get with an organization or get with a speaker or get with somebody that's here today and get some information that you learned today that you did not know, and go tell your neighbor. We don't talk together as a community anymore. And when folks get elected, there are folks that are running for office now. I ran for office last year. I'm not currently running. But we got too many folks that come and speak to us just when it's time to run for office. And I'm not talking about anybody here today at all. But when a person comes into your community and they leave, you make them sign something. You make them commit to something. Don't just vote for somebody because they look like us and then we don't hold them accountable when they get in office. So learn something today and get some information and knock on your neighbor's door. I have 3 sons. Outside of, unfortunately, what has happened to the young black males over the last decade, my concern is not just for my kids, but for my community. Frederick Douglass said it's better to build strong boys than to repair broken men. Let's build the community we want. Thank you all. God bless you, and I look forward to supporting you throughout this process.